Hello everyone, I'm doing something a little bit different today because back in August my channel hit two big milestones of 2,500 subscribers and 250,000 views, so I wanted to do something to mark that and get a little bit more personal. So it's now October, but about a month ago I put a post on the community tab and in my Discord saying that I was thinking about doing a Q&A to mark this, so I got some questions on those, so I want to do those today, as well as a bit of a life update. So I'll start with a life update, but in this section I'm going to make sure I cover T Adek's question, and she asked, what are you working on at the moment, if anything, hoods wise, mods wise, video wise, also just generally how are you doing. So thank you for asking that, Beth. I'll make sure I cover that here. So I've been a little bit inactive on my channel lately, and I do apologise for that. The last upload was in July, which was episode 5 of Opening Ballet. I've had a lot going on lately, a little bit of a rough time. So in July, I was actually made redundant from my job. It was my first job after graduating in computer science, and I was working as a full stack web developer for a small startup. And it was comfortable and I was learning a lot, but it was very low paid, so I perhaps was ready for the next step. But yeah, obviously since it was a startup, the security wasn't the best, but still being in that position of not having a job, of needing one, it was very stressful and busy. So even though it might sound like I had some free time to work on my channel, I just didn't have the time or energy to do it. I just wasn't really in a good place with my mental health. It's not like I'm someone that sort of needs a job to feel like fulfilled. It just sort of circumstantial. There's a lot of unknowns. How long it's going to be and what it's going to be. And I sort of felt very much a crossroads because I wasn't really sure if programming was right for me. I find it quite difficult. I mean, it is a difficult thing, but I feel like I find it, it's not a natural talent of mine. And it's also not like a hobby. I don't do it in my free time. It's just in the case of work. So I did try to have a little think about, doing something else, and I did apply for a range of jobs, but I was offered a job to start in a week's time on the 18th of October, and that is similar to what I was doing before, a web development job, focusing on PHP Laravel framework. So if you know anything about programming, let me know in the comments. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive about it. It seems like a good place with good with a good atmosphere, and it's a big pay increase from my previous job, which is nice, and it's also a 4-day working week, and so I am hoping to use my day off to work on my channel. Obviously, no promises. It's easy to just want to relax or get busy doing something else like cleaning the house, or in my case redoing my downloads folder or something. But I do hope that sort of unlocks potential for me to work on my channel in a more structured way. The hours otherwise are a bit longer, it's 8:30 to 5:30 rather than a 9 to 5. So, those working days may be, more exhausting to then work on YouTube after hours, but hopefully having a full day free might really give me the chance to do that. I am someone that struggles with procrastination and getting easily overwhelmed and anxiety, so that's why it can be quite hard for me to get videos out very often. But I would like to do YouTube, and I really need to start putting more time into it. But having said that, I have been slowly working on the next episode of Opening Ballet. I did record it a while ago, and I have started editing it, doing bits and pieces here and there. slowly working on that. So something is in the works aside from this video, so I hope you look forward to that. And I do also have footage of Veronaville 20 rounds later, but I'm not sure what to do with it. So I wanted to do it in a different style to my 10 rounds later. So for that, I just recorded myself playing a day with each family, no commentary or anything, with the idea of like speeding up, using it as a commentate over. But I don't know, it seems like a lot. It feels like it'd be a lot of time and work to put that together. So I'm not sure about that one right now. But in my free time, I am currently playing round 24 of Veronable now, and I'm going to admit it's kind of losing its spark. The pre-maids are all either old or dead, and it's getting to a point where the new generation's feeling a bit like they're all related. Um, so I'm not sure how much further I might be able to take it. When the new generation's kind of in college and adults, and there's no real pairings to have. I don't want to make townies, so I would like to start a new hood like Pleasant View, but I feel like there's a lot of work required beforehand, and that's for similar reasons that's holding me back from doing some of the content I want to do on my channel. So I'll get into that in a minute. So I also want to focus on doing tutorials and mod showcases going forward on the channel, but I just feel too disorganized, and that's the same with starting a new hood. So for one thing, I want to upgrade and reset my computer. Most of the components in it are like 7 years old now, so it's getting on a bit, and I think some of the newer games coming out like Life by You and City Skylines 2 that I might be interested in, it might struggle a little bit with those. So I feel like it is coming up to time to upgrade, and I think with that I would also do a full reset. I also want to make a website of my own, with an updated mod list, probably more descriptive and helpful, and where I can make blog posts and share my downloads, so it can be like a hub of all things to do with my creations, really. And I also really want to redo my downloads folder as well. So I've sort of made myself this big list of prerequisites for both starting and playing a new neighborhood, as well as like showcasing mods. I want to make sure I've got good resources to direct to, like on those videos, perhaps like an accompanying blog post with the mods listed, or more written about them, and making sure that I know what mods work together and things like that. So yeah, it's probably more than necessary, but there's a lot of things that I want to do anyway. So just having them, well, I can't do these things until these are done, then it can help me, spur me along, but it also can make me feel really stuck in the mud as well. So just gotta find a balance there, I think. But yeah, ultimately, I would really love to start doing a weekly mod series on the channel. So things like 10 mods for family gameplay, 10 mods to make teenagers more fun, 10 mods to make the game more challenging, things like that. I'm maybe branching out into other games as well. I don't want to just be a Sims 2 channel. I do hope you can connect with me and be interested in some of the other games I might cover, like the other Sims games, but maybe like Skyrim, Stardew Valley, City Skylines as well, and covering mods for those as well. And as for making my own mods, I do have lots of ideas, even some I've made and haven't shared yet. But yeah, I'm just struggling with motivation a little bit. I actually made a Tumblr list of all the mods I've sort of got in the works or have ideas for. So check that out and you'll get an idea of what I might be coming up with. And if you want to let me know what you'd particularly be interested in seeing, then that would definitely spur me along. And I'd also ultimately like to start making some CC, like converting objects or clothes from The Sims 4, but I do feel like that's a way off. that's not a priority for me. I would definitely like to get a website going and work on my channel more before that. But yeah, that's definitely a nice to have goal for the future. But I think with that introduction out of the way, we can start getting into some of the questions. So I'll start with a question from Hendrik, and that is, what is your personal history playing The Sims? Like, when did you start playing the Sims games? What Sims games did you play so far? And that's also very similar to Ron Jabakfor's question on how and when did you start playing The Sims? So I got introduced to The Sims in around 2006 when I was about 8 years old. I think Sims 2 Pets was the latest release at the time. A friend showed me The Sims 2 and I was just so impressed. I was like, wow, that's like the best thing I've ever seen. I've got to play that. Um, but I suddenly wanted to get into The Sims 1 first. I thought, no, I can't jump in at 2. There's a first one. I won't understand The Sims 2, so got to get number 1. So I did that. I got that. I got the first Sims game first and played that for a bit and just sort of got the hang of it. Before getting The Sims 2, and that's when I really fell in love. So then from then on, I always asked for the expansion packs and stuff packs for birthdays and Christmases. So I did end up with the whole collection on disc eventually. And then when The Sims 3 came out, I wasn't able to run it. My laptop at the time just didn't have the required specs, so I had to wait a long time before I could actually play The Sims 3. So that just made me have to stick with The Sims 2 for a while anyway. And then when I did eventually play The Sims 3, I did enjoy it and I still do, but I was a bit underwhelmed and I just still prefer The Sims 2. I did eventually get all the packs for Sims 3 and then played 2 and 3 simultaneously for many years. I just always had that strong connection to The Sims 2. And then when Sims 4 came out, wow, I was so disappointed. I have tried to play this game so many times and I've just never enjoyed it. I kept buying packs hoping it would make things better, but it never did. The app tells me I've played it for 340 hours and I don't know if that's a lot really, but I feel like it shows I've given it a good go and I just haven't enjoyed it. I can't imagine what it would show for Sims 2. Obviously, I've played for most of his lifespan on the discs, and then I do have the Ultimate Collection on EA, but I use the RPC launcher, so that bypasses it, and I'm pretty sure that stops it from logging the hours. So I'd never even be able to guess how long I've played of Sims 2, but yeah, a lot more. But yeah, I just dislike The Sims 4, and I don't play it at all. But I think I would be interested in playing it heavily modded if and when it ever stops being updated. If they're just done with it, it's not having any more updates, so I can be left alone to install a load of mods and then don't have to worry about updating them every 5 minutes. I think I'd give it a good go then, and it might have some potential, maybe. I've played some spin-offs as well. I've played Sims Medieval and The Sims Castaway on Wii, but I never really played any console versions, despite playing DS a lot as a kid. I did play Pets on DS, and I did have the Sims 2 DS game, but I just couldn't get into it. I guess I just didn't understand it at the time. Um, so I'm currently only playing Sims 2 at the moment, and I'm not really interested in the other installments right now, but I would definitely play Sims 3 again at some point. I just need to get the motivation to mod it again. So yeah, I've been playing The Sims 2 on and off for about 17 years. Next, Annie Bats kindly sent me a few questions, but I'm going to break those up and so that I can answer some questions from other people that sort of relate to the same thing. So we'll start with this one, which is, what is it about The Sims 2 that makes you stick around after this many years, after the last pack was released? What is your experience playing with the newer games, and are you looking forward to the release of Sims 5 or any of the new life simulation contenders? So, as I was saying, I wasn't able to play Sims 3 when it first came out. So, for those first few years after the last expansion pack, that was a big reason. I just simply didn't really have many options. I didn't really know much about computer games, so I only really had and played The Sims 1, 2, and the first Zoo Tycoon for many years, and that's all I ever tried. And then after that, struggling to get into The Sims 3 and many other games, just must have been a contributor. Um, I don't know what had me so hooked at Sims 2 at the time. I hate to admit it, but I think for a little while comfort was a big factor. It was what I was used to and I knew, and I didn't really like change or find it very easy to pick up games, especially because I actually play with a left-handed setup. So for a lot of games, I have to spend some time changing the controls. I can't just pick it up, have it go, see if I like it. I actually have to put that time and effort into playing around with the controls, trying to get it right for me, get a feel for it. And yeah, that can, when you're not sure if you're going to like a game, that can be really off-putting. So with the Sims games, obviously they're great because they're just point and click. But yeah, I think that's why Sims 2 was just very easy and comforting for me for a long time. And then for whatever reason, when I was younger, I was just happy doing the same thing over and over. Now that I look back, I think the way I played at the time was so boring. I only ever played with one family or often just my sim self. I often cheated needs and money, so I'm not even sure what had me so engaged. But I guess I just did like developing my own story just at that really beginner level. But of course, there are so many reasons why Sims 2 makes the best Sims game. I mean, going into them all would be a whole video in itself. But to name a few, I simply like the way the Sims look in The Sims 2 more than the others. I think it's the best balance between cartoony and realistic. The Sims in The Sims 3 are a bit creepy to me, and The Sims 4 Sims, it's just a joke, really. They're like puppets. Um, I think the Sims 2 Sims are just really charming and they have like funny quirks but aren't silly or exaggerated. And I think also, like, while I like the idea of traits in theory, the Sims 2 Sims had the deepest personality with the combination of the personality points, the aspirations, the interests, and the hobbies. Um, it just altogether made them feel really unique and complex. And like I also feel like the Sims 2 game is more about the Sims than the player, whereas Sims 3 and Sims 4 has a big focus on the player. It's like, those loud sounds that play for achieving, completing an opportunity or leveling a skill in the later games. To me, they're really jarring and unimmersive and really make me feel like it's me doing those things as opposed to my Sims like in The Sims 2. I like to feel like I'm it is my Sims doing these things and I'm just facilitating that. And I feel like Sims 2 gets you that, whereas the other games don't. I don't know, just for me, there's just so much more life in The Sims 2 than the other games, and that should be what a life sim is about. But nowadays, I'd actually say one of my favourite things is actually the lack of story progression and therefore just how much freedom and control you have. Um, but it was only in the last sort of 3 years I even saw that as a benefit. I actually used to hate seeing the Caliente sisters befriending the adult child of my starting sim. But this was thanks to discovering Pleasant Sims videos on rotational gameplay in 2020 that unlocked The Sims 2. It was like a whole new game for me. I've just been completely hooked ever since. So I just feel like I found my perfect style of gameplay, which is definitely far more optimized for The Sims 2 rather than the later games that do have story progression. I'm so glad that I feel like The Sims 2 is a game I can stick to because I have absolutely no hope for The Sims 5. The little bits I've seen so far, Project Rene, are just so concerning. It appears to be an online mobile game essentially, and I don't like mobile games at all. I don't play them. Um, Life by You and Power Lives seem a bit more promising, more so Power Lives to be honest. But even then, I'm like 99% sure there's no way I'd prefer any of these games over Sims 2, especially since at this stage, neither of those have yet shown anything to suggest the characters having deep and complex personalities. In fact, Life by You seems concerningly lacking in this department, with the personality and aspiration situation, and that's really close to release. So Yeah, Sims 2 all the way. Before moving on to the rest of Annie's questions, I just want to answer Alex Hart's question on what is your favourite detail in The Sims 2? So, The Sims 2 has so many amazing little details, and I think these unique details are a big reason why it's the best Sims game. There's so many to choose from. So if you want to find out more, I recommend onlyabidoang's videos, which I rewatched to research my answer to this question. So I think for me, my favourite are the personality related subtleties, like how Sims react when directed to do an interaction that either suits or goes against the personality. So like outgoing Sims look excited when you direct them to make it the first move on a sim, or sloppy Sims sulk when they need to clean something, and like how outgoing and shy Sims react differently to social interactions like being admired or flirted with, and grouchy Sims retaliate towards negative interactions, which then further worsens the relationship, where nice Sims will just walk off and cry. I think that's such a big part of what makes the Sims feel so unique and like they have real personalities that impact their life as a whole. So another question from Annie is, when did you first start creating mods and what led up to it? What was your first experience with it, and has the capability to create your own mods changed the way you look at the game in any way? So the timeline of this is actually a little bit fuzzy to me. I believe I started making mods for Skyrim in about 2016, so when I was about 18. I made a small tweak changing some item stats and also my own custom followers. I'm not really sure what spurred this other than just a simple desire to have things just as I like them. I had been wanting something a bit different from the vanilla followers, but then downloading followers made by other people just felt too impersonal. So I wanted a follower using the same kind of hair and eyes and things like that as my character, so it would fit my aesthetic, but as well as that, I just also wanted to have more control over the AI and the type of combat they used. So I quickly found some great resources, especially on YouTube. So I was able to combine knowledge from a few different sources and pull it off, relatively stress free. So once I got confident with the process of making a custom standalone follower, I made a YouTube tutorial on it, which you can still find on my channel. I always actually meant to upload an updated voice tutorial, but I never got around to it. But I do hope to mod Skyrim again, so if I do and make more followers, then I'll definitely do an updated tutorial on it. But as for Sims mods, I think I started towards the end of computer science degree in about 2019. I didn't learn anything specific that helped with modding. It was more just a case of having built up a better understanding of like computer files and things like that, and just having more confidence to be able to figure stuff out. From looking at my Mod The Sims page, it looks like I may have actually made a mod for Sims 4 before The Sims 2, but then it might have just been that I uploaded The Sims 2 ones later than I initially created them. I'm not sure about that. But for my first Sims 4 mod, Less Ignored Holiday Traditions, I'm pretty sure this is going to need updating, but I don't play the game, so I'm just not interested. I'm sorry. But at the time, I remember playing and just getting really frustrated that my sim had so many uncompletable traditions. So I looked for a mod to stop this and then didn't find one, so I just decided to make one myself. I think I might have found a mod that made some other changes to the sort of the traits tradition system, so I was able to like reverse engineer it that way maybe. For one of my early Sims 2 mods, the more sensible career tracks for university majors, I knew I wanted to make more sense of the major career system, but neither Laura or Fano's mods were quite right for my taste. I found the tutorial and I was able to make my own. I believe I might have actually experimented with making mods for Sims 2, 3 and 4 all around a similar time, at least within the span of sort of 1 year. I did dabble with some mods for Sims 3, something to do with the attraction system was one of them, and also played around with like similar for Sims 2, like a mod for the majors, but I just never uploaded any more mods for Sims 3. I'm not sure why. I think it might have been that I didn't feel like I'd tested them enough, but then I just kind of stopped playing The Sims 3, so I just never got around to it. But then naturally, just as I stuck to playing The Sims 2 a lot more after that, I obviously just ended up making a lot more mods only for that game. As for changing the way I look at the game, I find myself getting a lot less frustrated or annoyed at the way the game is by default, because I just know that if I don't like something, there's a good chance there's already a mod to change it, and if not, I could possibly make one myself. And it also makes me feel like the game can be a lot more personal to me, as I can make my own edits, often in the form of editing other people's mods for my own use. So if I see a mod that I like some of the features of, but not all, I don't have to either miss out on it entirely or just stick it in my game anyway and not be fully happy with it. I can make it right for me. I think that one brings me on nicely to gaming with double A's question of, I know you've dabbled in modding a bit. What would you say is a personal favourite that you've been able to create, or even a mod that you further customise to your preference? So I tend to struggle to motivate myself to make mods. So when I do make one, I usually really love the idea. So it is hard to just pick one. I like how my simple mod that blocks the wants to make out woohoo, fall in love with multiple Sims, or Sims with the hopeless romantic trait, because it was great to be a part of a wider project that altogether made this particular trait a game changer, especially to make romance Sims less repetitive. I'm also really proud of the work I put into my job salary rebalance mod, as I spent a really long time planning that one, coming up with formulas. So a lot of thought went into it, and I think it resulted in something that makes very logical sense, a lot more sense than the vanilla game at least. And I actually keep meaning to update the careers recently converted from The Sims 1 to bring them in line with that system, so keep an eye out for that. Also, my no zodiac chemistry has become an absolute essential in my game, just as how a mod that brings secondary aspirations into the chemistry system is essential. There's a few mods for that. I personally use Midge's Romantic Standards. But now I just really like how calculated the chemistry system is in my game. So I can always understand the real reasons for why a Sims are or aren't attracted to each other. So if I have like a pairing in mind when my Sims become teenagers, I can carefully select turn-ons, knowing they won't be overlooked by random zodiac signs. I also have some unreleased mods that I'm really loving in my game. I have one that overhauls the eating and the hunger experience, so Sims generally eat much faster, need to eat more meals in a day, and how filling each dishes makes a lot more sense. There's quite a lot to that mod though, so I'm kind of procrastinating explaining it in the description. And also any custom foods would ideally need to be brought in line with the system, which I've done for my game, but I don't feel like I'd be able to share those, or that everyone would be able to edit their own custom foods, and I feel like a lot of us do use custom foods, so that's a bit of a shame. And I've also got one that makes fist fights break out a lot less often, that has some trait support, or just as well as just more personality checks. So I think I'm gonna upload that really soon, actually, maybe this week. And I also have a lot more mods released on my Tumblr, and also a list of mods I'm yet to release or have ideas for, so make sure you check that out. I really would like to start sharing and making more mods. I'm actually considering doing like a Patreon early access system. I think that, would be able to motivate me a little bit. So Annie's last question is, what are your theories on The Sims 2 big mysteries? What actually happened to BellaDovah? How did Hero Monty die? And what actually happened to the Triku family? So this question actually sent me on a deep dive, because it made me realise that I've not really formed my own strong opinions on the lore, although I have always been interested in hearing the theories. So I'll start with Hero Monty, since I'm actively playing BellaDovah. To be honest, it's not something I thought about in terms of my gameplay, so I didn't really have it affect my game in any way, apart from having Benedict pursue a career that might help him investigate. So he's currently in the intelligence career. I'd definitely like to hear more theories about Hero, because I think it's really underrated, but the best theory I've heard is on Letter Mill's video on Shakespeare in Veronaville, Much Ado About Nothing, because this takes an understanding of the play her character was based upon, as well as the Greek mythology the play was based upon, and formed an opinion. So I'd highly recommend checking that video out, as well as a whole series on Shakespeare in Veronaville. So I'll link it in the description. But to summarise, I think a likely theory is that Antonio and Hero were in sort of maybe like an arranged marriage situation. They got on, but Antonio doesn't have a memory of falling in love with her, so they weren't in love. I think Hero may have actually been in love with Antonio's brother Claudio. Claudio was Hero's partner in Much Ado About Nothing, so this makes sense. And it's possible that she killed herself out of grief after Claudio's death. It's possible that she faked her death, as the hero in the play did, and that's why she doesn't have a grave or ghost. But since it doesn't seem like anyone was aware of a plot to fake her death, as others were in Glay, the lack of gravestone could instead imply that she was lost to deep waters, as Hero in the myth jumped into the sea. Don't know what to make of that. The game also treats her differently to BellaDovah, you know, like she is marked as deceased in the family trees and things, whereas Bella isn't. So it doesn't seem like the game's really trying to imply that she's still alive, but it could be, or it could just be like different devs, different like inconsistencies, things like that. And as for the feud costing Antonio his one true love, it's hard to say whether this means Hero. The fact that he doesn't have a memory of falling in love with her could be an oversight for one thing, and he actually did. Or it could be that he didn't love her, but maybe he could have if obviously he had more time with her and she didn't have an untimely death. Or it could even mean that Antonio also loved another, maybe Cordelia Cap. As for BellaDovah, the theories make my head spin. I've heard so many that seem compelling and plausible, but often with plot holes too. I've also watched a few videos on the technical aspects of BellaDovah, which also make my head spin, but do kind of help to separate fact from theory. But I think the reason there are so many different theories is because there just isn't a right answer from the game or dev's perspective. You know, some hints were just added as an afterthought, and the devs that worked on the different installments weren't exactly all on the same page. However, I think my opinion is that the Calientes are the most guilty. I think it's highly suspicious that they moved to Pleasant View just before she went missing, that they have alien ancestry, and that Dina got so quickly involved with Mortimer just after being married to Bella's brother Michael. I think it's definitely a fact that she was abducted from Don's balcony, but why she was there or what happened is the mystery. So Don's memory suggests that he never kissed Bella, so the rejected makeout may have just been the first romantic interaction he tried, and therefore Bella never had any romantic involvement with him. Or, you know, there could have been some mutual flirting going on beforehand, hard to say. I suspect that Bella and Mortimer may not have actually had the best relationship, not so much so that Mortimer no longer loved her, but I think they had drifted apart. But, you know, status was important to both of them, so Bella didn't want to risk that. So it was after Bella rejected Don that he then moved on to Cassandra, as he kissed Cassandra for the first time after being rejected by Bella. So I don't think he was ever trying to cheat on Cassandra with her mother. But Don's first kiss and love was Nina Caliente, and they're still close when you start playing. And as they're both romance sims, I think they are, you know, they're great friends, they do love each other, but they don't mind each other sleeping around. So because of this, I think it's actually a possibility that Nina might have actually egged Don on to pursue Bella, you know, helped him plan a romantic evening looking at the stars, and that's how Nina and Dina were aware of the plan, you know, and where and when Bella would be to make the arranged abduction happen. They wanted Bella out of the way to get their hands on Mortimer's money and life elixir, and I don't think Don was aware of the plot whatsoever. I think he was just used. I don't think Mortimer was involved in a sinister way, but perhaps he just wasn't really as devastated as you think he should have probably been. So I think Callie and Cisses are highly manipulative, and that's how, as well as the fact Mortimer may have already been drifting away from Bella, that Dina was so easily able to swoop in. I think the Strange Town Bella is not the real Bella. I think the aliens cloned and placed her there. Don't know why. As for the real Bella, she's probably the one that ended up in Lunar Lakes in Sims 3, dead. So obviously there's some time travel there. Sims 3 is where the story just really gets complicated and tangled, in my opinion, but so there's definitely some elements of time travel involving the Goths, Calientes, and Dawn. And while I think The Sims 4's total lack of lore is just inexcusable, a nice theory I heard more recently was that Alexander travelled back in time to write Murder in Pleasant View, and that's a novel that appears in Sims 3 where he's just a child. And that actually changed the course of history, ending up in the alternate timeline that is Sims 4, where Bella remains safe and sound. I do hope to play Pleasant View soon. I'm not sure how this or any theory would affect my game, but I think I would probably play on a clean template, but one without Bella, and just never have her return. And as for the Tricos, I only really found out they existed this year. So even just having done a search to find out more about them and hear theories, I still don't know what to make of it. It seems very intentional for the devs to have created a whole family, but to have killed them off before release. I think even if they were initially thinking of having some pre-made playables and then decided not to, they could have made them townies instead in that case. And it's not like they had some sort of problem, so they had to get rid of them. So I feel like the foundations of a story have definitely been set here. But it really does seem like there's very few hints in the game and very much open to speculation rather than trying to tell a full story. So most of the Trico members are buried on the Gothia Greenlaw's community lot, and apparently in a modded game, moving a grave to a community lot resets their death type to starvation. So we can't be sure how these Sims actually died. Since the other family members remember inheriting money from John Smith, it seems like he died first and of old age, but then tragedy struck the rest of the family. Some theorize they all died in one fire, but since many of the graves were moved to the community lot, but the graves of two teens remain on the House of Fallen Trees, I'd have initially thought that was suggesting the teens died separately, but then their memories don't really align with this because they all remember each other dying. Gvordian died of fire, but her cousin Frickerith's ghost type is by satellite. However, Frickerith is the only Trico member to appear in Sims 3. He's buried in the graveyard in Moonlight Falls in the Supernatural Park. And interestingly, he's a teen here, despite The Sims 3 being 50 years before. So this could suggest that the Trico family died a long time ago, but then that's basically impossible since John Smith has living townie descendants. It's likely the devs were just trying to tell us that he actually died of fire, not by satellite, or maybe even a satellite caused the fire, which killed the whole family. But then why would some graves have been moved and not others? And then there's a whole thing of the coffins in the basement, and then there's no evidence of any of the Trico family or even the later inhabitant Raynell being vampires. I just don't know what to think. It all makes very little sense and kind of poorly thought out, in all honesty, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do with the storyline in your Downtown Let's Play, Annie. Next, we have Jaybird's question of what is your favourite pre-made storyline? So the one that is most dear to me is the Feuding Families of Veronaville, simply because that's what I've played the most with. I like how open-ended it is, so whatever happens when you start playing, there's still a storyline that makes sense, you know, whether it just stays as it is or gets worse or improved. There's a story that fits there. So for that reason, I think Veronaville is just a really great place for anyone wanting to start playing with the pre-mades or rotationally or with lore in mind. I wish I had done more with the Summer Dream storyline though. I'd probably try out the fairy mod next time, or at least make them witches. But I did build on the idea of them stealing children, or how I see it is rescuing children and then being infertile, so I had them adopt many more, mainly because Titania wanted to anyway. I do think there are more fascinating storylines than the ones in Vernaville, though. I mean, the BellaDovah mystery is obviously a classic. The Brokes are very interesting, and then there's all the alien shenanigans in Strange Town. But I think I need to get my hands on playing with those to really get a connection with them. And lastly, Hendrik asked, who are your favourite CC creators? So I haven't downloaded any new CC in quite a long time because my downloads folder is such a mess. But I do still check Tumblr daily and admire new creations. I think at the moment I'm really leaning towards Sims 4 conversions for clothes and objects. So I really appreciate the creators that work on those. For the era of my downloads folder, some names that come into mind for clothes are DD, MDP, That's Me, Moocher, Rented Space, We Blue Peace, and YSim. And as for objects, Veranka and Lena Sherry. But I've been really admiring some of the creators working on the newer packs like Lord Crumps, Sims Co, Neo Sime, Platinum Maceration, Lucilla, so many more. So I really can't wait to get my hands on those. But for hair, I like to keep a variety, but never clay hair. So some hair creators that come to mind are Entropy, Fake Blood, and Polygon Beach, who used to go by Bigkins. I pretty much exclusively follow CC creators on Tumblr, so check out who I follow for more, and I do hope to make a side blog for reblogging fine soon. So that is all the questions. Thank you so much to everyone who sent a question in. Let me know anyone that has any further questions in the comments. I'll gladly clarify some things. And please let me know your opinions. What are your opinions on the theories and things like that? I'd love to hear a response with your thoughts as well. But that is it for now. I hope you look forward to some of the upcoming stuff like more opening ballet and some videos on mods and tutorials. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.